Welcome to another episode here. I got the homie Dre on the line, my homie Dre 40 ounce.
What up?
What is up, man? I wanted to do a little talk on Hussein Fatal, like almost an unauthorized biography or something. I feel like we have
Yeah,
like these hip hop legends that just kind of fade away, and it's like somebody's got to do an episode on them, or something. Um,
yeah, and Fatal. I mean, I feel like he was probably the most charismatic out of the Outlaws, or at least the most. I don't know. He kind of had like he was like maybe one of the more unique standout members, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think he was pretty standout with the Outlaws. I mean, if you were to ask somebody who their favorite outlaw was, 90%, 80% maybe would say Fatal, you think?
Right.
Besides
Yeah, I
Tupac.
think so. Yeah, I mean, and Pac, yeah, he was an outlaw, but I mean that was kind of his group. They were more like proteges to him. So
Yeah.
I don't know. The dynamic was weird, but yeah, I would say Fatal would be probably the most famous outlaw. I kind of looked at the Outlaws as a separate group. I didn't really include Tupac in that.
Yeah, I could see that. I wouldn't do that either, really. Cuz he was just kind of like the boss, it seemed like.
Right,
Like when you
right,
think of the Outlaws, you don't really think of Tupac first cuz his name is so big anyways. It's like he's
right.
Tupac. So, but Fatal, he's got an interesting story. Um, he these all the outlaws are from New Jersey, right? They're all from the East Coast,
Yep.
but we hear them a lot on like death row stuff, and they kind of have like this West Coast sound.
They have some West Coast roots for sure. They
Yeah,
spent a lot of time on the West Coast with Tupac and even that Thug Life group did a lot of stuff on the West Coast. Big Psych wasn't from the East though, right?
that's right. I was just gonna say he was West Coast, wasn't he? Big Psych.
Yep, yep. R.I.P. Big Psych, another one, man.
Yeah, R.I.P. Rest in peace for sure. And it goes without saying, Fatal Hussein, rest in peace. Um, Do you know how Big Psych was introduced to the group, or how he became part of the group?
I don't, man. No.
There's got to be like some story there because he came last, didn't he?
Well, so Big Psych was part of a group called Dramacidal, I think.
Oh
And
yeah,
I think some of the members from Dramacidal became outlaws. And
yeah.
I don't remember which ones were. Edie wasn't in that Dramacidal group, but I know one of the other outlaws and Big Psych were. I don't know too much about that group, but I know some of them crossed over to be outlaws, and then I think that's how Big Psych got into the group. But I don't know how they were formally introduced.
All right. Well, Fatal here. He was only like 5 years older than us. So if he was alive today, I mean, he was born in '73. So if he was
Okay.
alive today, he would be about maybe 50, something like that.
Yep. Yep.
Uh, Kind of young when you think about it. I mean, I first heard Fatal on All Eyes on Me. That was the first time I heard him, which
Yeah. Same here,
30 years ago almost.
dude. That is crazy.
Yeah.
You're right. 30th anniversary is next year, or maybe the year after. I don't know, but yeah, it's right around the corner.
Yeah. And
And
he was born in New Jersey.
mhm,
And you know how we met Pac, right?
I don't.
So his brother, the first outlaw that passed away, Yak Gaddafi, or what was his name?
Yaki. Yeah.
Yaki.
Yaki Gaddafi. They just called him Gaddafi, but a lot of called him Yaki.
So he knew Tupac first, and I think he was
And
telling Fatal that he knew him.
and I think yeah, the story with Yak and Pac was that they grew up together, so they knew each other's families and whatnot. So I know that connection, but the connection from Fatal is through Yak. Then
Yeah. And I don't think Fatal believed him that he knew Tupac. And then when Tupac got locked up, he took him to visit Tupac in prison. And then that's
Oh
when
damn.
Tupac was like, I'm going to form this group, the Outlaws. I want you guys in it. And he still had the other group, Pharmacidal, that he was trying to
Mm.
keep separate. But then he ended up just kind of mashing them, I guess.
Yeah, they ended up kind of mixing together. Um, so Dramacidal, I don't know exactly. I think Stretch was in that group.
Yeah.
Big Psych. Um, Mo Preem, his half brother, was doing some rap in it too. Pac's half brother.
Mm-hmm.
God, I can't remember the outlaw. I don't know if it's Noble or Castro that was in that Dramacidal group, but yeah, interesting group. If you listen to Thug Life, you'll hear a lot of them on the Dramacidal group is in there. It almost sounds like the Outlaws, in my opinion.
Really?
Yeah, a Thug Life album, underrated or underappreciated, at least for me. I've been listening to it a lot more lately.
That's one of the records I kind of skipped over my entire
Mhm.
library. But I see it. You know, I always see it. I'm like, I'm going to check that record out someday. Is Fatal on that record? Is he part of that?
No,
No?
I don't think so. But Nate Dogg is on there. A little bit of West Coast stuff. You'll hear Psych. And then even the beats are somewhat West Coast. A lot of Parliament and George Clinton samples.
I'm going to have to check that out. I sometimes I'll do a reaction video on albums I never heard and just like say thumbs up or thumbs down. I'm going to have to do
Dude,
that
that's a
one.
good one. You should.
Thug Life.
You'd be surprised, man. I'd be curious to see what you think because,
Yeah.
it aged pretty well.
I believe it. I believe it. I bet there's tracks on there that I have heard that just get dusted off for me. Like, oh, I remember this
Oh, yeah.
way back in the day. You know?
How long will they mourn me? That one's on there.
Yeah,
I don't know if you
that's right.
remember that
Huh?
one or not.
No, of course
Yeah, that's the
everybody
one with
does.
Nate Dogg.
I like the version that Spice One did though. Did you hear
Did
that
he
one?
do that song?
On
No.
his latest record, he has a song
Okay.
with I can't remember his name. This one dude who does the singing and he raps in it, and he sounds like Nate Dogg. Like he does pretty good of
Oh.
channeling Nate Dogg. Except he
Is
says,
it?
"How long will we
It,
mourn them?" is what he says.
oh, okay. Is it Nate Jr.?
I don't think so, man.
It's like Nate Jr. goes by like N Hale.
Oh, he does?
Yeah, it's like Nathaniel Hale, but he goes by N Hale.
Let me pull it up really quick here. Because we got the time. Why not? Spice One.
This fucking fly is gonna piss me off.
Kill it.
Pinche moscas.
I like that Spice One record, the latest one that he had. I thought it was pretty good.
Yeah, Spice One still grinding, still putting out some good shit, man. I kind of glossed over a lot of that of his catalog after the early 2000s, but
Yeah, Platinum
last few
OG
years he's
too.
been putting it down.
So that one song is called How Long featuring North Side. That's not
Ah,
Nate
okay.
Dogg's son, is it?
I don't think so.
Yeah.
No.
No, because I think Northside has a discography out there. Anyways, the song is pretty good. But let's get back here to the Thug Line, or
Fatal.
the Fatal, part of this little crazy
Yeah.
outlaw, just a tree of branches, man, that just kind of spread
Oh yeah,
out.
it branches out everywhere.
So Fatal, the first time that he was heard was on All Eyes on Me, and he was on All About You, right? It ain't all about you.
Yeah. All About You. He was also on what the fuck is the name of that song? It's got all the outlaws in it. It's got that really cool beat, man. Let me think.
I know which one you're talking about too. It's on the B side.
Yeah, it's on disc 2.
It's like the first song on it.
Doo, 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 doo.
Aliases, whatever.
Yeah, that one. I can't remember the name of that song.
But
It's so wild.
and also you can't forget that he was on Hit 'Em Up. Like he had a real big
Yeah,
part in that one.
he
You know?
did. And he was all up in that video too, more so than the other Outlaws.
Yeah, like what got him so mad?
I
It was
think he's just
crazy.
ride or die, dude. I think he's just one of those guys who's like, if you're down with him, he's going to inherit all of your beefs, and he's going to ride with you,
Yep.
regardless if he knows him or not.
Yeah, that was pretty cool. I thought he, the thing about Fatal, and we know this only later, is that he became like a superstar featured artist.
Yeah,
Anything that he was on was always just dope. It was killer. But
and more to the ride or die part of it too. Like you see that when he teamed up with Yuck Mouth, and when he teamed up with Ja Rule, and like I don't think he really had any personal beef with 50, but he went ahead and inherited that beef with Ja, and went all out with that. And then, same with Yuck Mouth and all of his beefs.
yeah, you're right. He is a ride or die guy. He gets on these tracks with Yuck, has those they're even like subliminal diss tracks or whatever, and he's like, I'm all about it, and he just gets on there and just kills it.
Yeah.
But what he did on Hit 'Em Up though, of course, was legendary, At this point, it's one of the most legendary diss tracks ever made.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's always in everyone's top five diss tracks. You're always going to hear Hit 'Em Up.
Mhm. Um before so Ja or not Ja, Fatal, he's got this career where he came out with a record just a couple years after Pac died, in the Line of Fire with Under
Mm-hmm.
Relativity. And Relativity was like going down under. It like flopped. That record just flopped. I don't know if you ever heard it, but there's a lot of
I'm
Fatal
saying,
records that I still haven't. There's a few Fatal
I,
records that I haven't heard still.
yeah. So right before I found out we were going to do this pod, I went through Spotify to go look through the discography, and shit, man, he's got a lot of stuff out there. And
Mm-hmm.
there's a few things that I know of that aren't on Spotify. Like he used to drop mixtapes too. There was a Fatal Valley mixtape where he
That's
would
right.
sample some stuff from All Eyes on Me on there and whatnot. And so he was pretty busy as an outlaw, especially like right after Pac died. He was out there doing stuff and
Do you
keeping his name
remember?
out there.
Did you? I think we did listen to In the Line of Fire back in the day when it came out. Do you remember? He had a song where they totally took "If It Ain't Rough," the NWA track.
Oh wow, yeah, dude, yeah. I wouldn't have even thought of that song until you brought it up, but yeah, I do remember that.
I heard that a couple weeks ago when I thought about doing this because I
Yeah,
cruised through that record and I was like, oh, I forgot about that song. That song was awesome.
yeah, man, that was a good one. That's a good
Yeah.
one to put back in rotation
Oh yeah, for sure,
too.
man. That's what I thought. I was like, this got to end up on the playlist. There's a couple other tracks on there that were probably slept on, I think, but I probably didn't like them back in the day. But I don't know. The album was just forgetful to me, the In the Line of Fire.
Well, and I think part of it too is that the standard was so high.
Mm-hmm.
Pac set the bar really, really high for these guys, and without the muscle that Pac had to back them, or maybe jump on a track or two, it was hard for like the mainstream audience to jump along with Fatal and the rest of the Outlaws. They just didn't have that commercial pop.
No, they didn't have the star power. If Pac was just around a little longer, they probably would have. The same way like Lloyd Banks did with G Unit. He
Right.
just needed a little bit more push. Um, the thing also about he on that in the Line of Fire record, it flopped commercially, sure, but the sound of it was I don't even know who the producer was, but the sound was like East Coast, and that
Hmm.
threw me off because I liked Fatal on All Eyes on Me on Daz
On
beats,
West Coast shit. Yep.
West Coast. So when I heard the Fatal record, I was like, "What? Oh hell no!" I was like, "I can't. I'm not like I couldn't get down with it."
Yeah, yeah, and a little bit of a I mean, I was a bit of a West Coast snob. I didn't really give East Coast much of a chance back then. It was
Right?
all about,
Yeah, me neither.
West Coast gangster shit.
Yeah, we got to be real. picky back in the day because the music was so good. Like,
Well, and there was so much of it too back
yeah,
then. Like I mean, just thinking about comparing back then to now, it's really hard to find a lot of good shit now.
yeah,
You go back and listen to someone's album that you didn't really give a chance to back in the day, and you're like, oh shit, it's not that bad.
right.
There's a
Like,
lot of like that Thug Life album, for example.
mm-hmm,
Not something I would have listened to back in the day because there was so much other good shit.
yeah. And that's why when I take another album like Fatal's first album for another spin, I kind of have like a different appreciation for it because it's like, all right, sometimes the older the better or whatever because
Right.
for whatever reason I can give it more time today, and really listen to it or something. And then, I still came off listening to it like, yeah, I could see why I didn't like it back then, but there are a few gems on here. And that Ren or that If It Ain't Rough type of track, that was a 5 star, man. It was a lot of fun. But for whatever reason it flopped. But after that, he moved to Rap a Lot Records. But before that, the Outlaws and Death Row dropped Still I Rise. But there was no
Yeah.
Fatal on there.
Is that true?
There wasn't
Yeah, you
any
might be
Fatal.
right.
And I wonder
And
why.
I don't know why that would be. Fatal wasn't dead. Fatal was still around. I
Hmm.
don't know if they had a falling out or not. They must have had a falling out. That's the only thing I can think of.
And that feels like maybe the only fallout the Outlaws ever had with each other, I
Yeah,
guess.
yeah,
Hmm.
I think you're right. And there's another album I'd be interested, and I know it's out there on the web, but there's a Death Row Outlaw album, and I think it was called Novocaine.
Oh
Now they
yeah.
dropped an official album called Novocaine, but I don't think it was the Death Row album. Um, I wish I could get my hands on that just to see if Fatal was on that. But there's a handful of tracks that made it to other projects, like Daz has a song on what soundtrack is that? I'm gonna have to rack my brain here. I don't think it was the Murder That Was the Case soundtrack. There was another one, but there's a Daz and an Outlaws track. That was a Novocaine track. But I wonder how much stuff in the Death Row catalog there is for Fatal Hussein. Um, Definitely good shit. I'm sure there's a lot of unreleased West Coast shit out there that would be awesome to hear right now.
I
Gotta try
can
to get my hands on that.
I can bet that outside of Death Row, Fatal has a lot of leftovers in different studios
Mhm.
because he was always in different studios. Rap a Lot, Murder Inc., and then
Right.
even SIBO. Oh, just everywhere.
Yeah.
It's might be impossible to count right now. Because how I guess it's impossible to know because we don't know of all the different
Right.
studios. You know.
Gosh, man, I threw some Fatal stuff on random on Spotify today, and just heard a couple of what sounded like you know leftover Fatal verses with the Outlaws, and I didn't really get a chance to look at what album they came from or not, but
Mm-hmm.
it looks like they're trying to do some shit to keep his name out there, at least from what I heard today. And I don't know if you know how much uh, posthumous Fatal material there is out there, but I
You
think
know,
I definitely heard some with the Outlaws today.
I wouldn't be surprised. I'm not. I am. I'm surprised about the amount of Fatal is out there that he came out alive that I haven't heard. Just looking at his records, I
Yeah,
was like, oh snap, he actually came out with a few records that just went under my radar. You know,
right.
and if you look at the songs, the features are pretty solid. Like I saw Yuck Mouth was on one of them, and I was like, okay, he's got some solid features on these records. Like I owe him a listen for sure. Um, but anything that he comes out with now, I bet there's several. There's got to be
Yeah.
at least a couple records worth of stuff out there. Now, who
With
wants to take the
Fatal,
time to mix it and whatever, that's another story.
right.
So,
And with Fatal, he usually came through with the proper verse too. Not very many features where I heard Fatal and been like, "Oh man, I didn't like that verse." Usually, one of the stronger verses on whatever album or track he's featured on.
oh yeah, for sure. And I got a couple standout tracks here that I want to talk to you about. Um, but before we get into like that extra type of shit, I want to mention the Murder Inc. Thing he did there. When he went to
Hmm.
Murder Inc. and he was on Blood in My Eye. Um, that was a trip because I was like, wow, Fatal is on a Ja Rule record. Do you remember when that dropped? What'd you think?
Oh man, I know I was living in Aurora at the time, so it must have been early 2000s. But
Mm-hmm.
totally unexpected, man. I wasn't expecting it, but I thought the combination was great. You know, um, Murder Inc. was a East Coast label, but I felt like a lot of their beats were kind of flirting with that West Coast sound too. Not necessarily all out West Coast, but you could definitely hear the influence. And I thought it was a good match for Fatal. I wish Fatal would have came out with an album over there.
Ooh, that would have been
And
killer, man.
yeah, did Fatal pass away when he was working with Murder Inc.? Do you kind of remember around the time and what label he was messing with?
He would have been under Rap a Lot,
Would it have been Rap a Lot?
but he died in 2015. So Rap a Lot had already
Oh, yeah,
pretty
yeah.
much,
That's way after Murder Inc.
yeah, and Rap a Lot at 2015 weren't really doing much. The lights were pretty much off at that point.
Hmm.
Um, but under Murder Inc., he even got to do some remix work with some of their popular artists like Ashanti and stuff. And
Yeah,
I'm surprised how much they let him, or how much work they gave him. It's cool. It's kind of like, dang.
he was one of the main. He was kind of like a go-to guy, remixes and
Oh yeah,
soundtracks.
they made that Rap a Lot Murder Inc. Connection, right there, just with Fatal alone, which was kind of interesting because on I think it's one of the bonus tracks on is it Blood in My Eye when Ja Rule is yelling Rap a Lot Murder Inc. Something like that.
Hmm.
And it's like, yeah, because Fatal was under Rap a Lot. So now they had a connection. And Jay Prince was probably, Jay Prince, he was probably down with all of that stuff, but he likes to keep his mouth shut, for the most part.
Yeah,
He's a the speak softly with the big stick type of guy. Um, but, there was that connection. And then we had Yuck on Rap a Lot throwing disses at 50 with mixtapes and everything, which they really
We
largely
Gon'
ignored.
Ride, that track. Was he on that? Fatal was on that track, right?
Yeah.
We Gon' Ride. Yeah.
When we had, wasn't the realist on there?
Mm-mm.
I thought maybe we
Ah,
had the
man, I'd
realist
have
and
to.
fatal, but I'd have to check it out.
Yeah, I'd have to double check.
Yeah.
I just know that track was a monster.
So, he did his thing on Rap a Lot and he had a couple of records on there. I listened to one of them. It's a tough listen, but I think it's probably worth another listen. Sometimes you listen once and it's like, oh, that was tough. But it wasn't too bad. I'll have to check it out again. And then some of the other projects that he had, definitely worth a listen. And then, like we talked about in 2015 on July 10th, he was 42 when his girlfriend was basically, well, it was a DUI and she was charged with vehicular homicide in a car accident that he did not make. But I tried to do some Googling on her and it's pretty hard. But the last thing that I
Yeah.
read about her was that she was going to be doing some prison time.
Damn.
But I always get curious about like how are they free yet? Do they have anything to say? You know,
Right.
and it just blows my mind. Like, imagine being her and just being like, yeah, I mean, I don't know. How do you even say it? Like, I was in a car accident. I killed one of the
Yeah, I
outlaws.
mean,
Like, geez.
and we don't know the whole story behind it. It could have been that they were both out partying. It
Yeah, for sure.
probably no.
Yeah, and
no ill intent, but still, like
yeah, it's just
it's
life,
wild.
like
Yeah,
people will die like that, like every day in the world, It's only because it's a rapper, who was so prominent that we're like, damn, where I am, Um, TNT kind of died similar in a car accident.
yeah, that was super unexpected.
Hmm.
I think he was by himself, not 100% sure, but yeah, that was another tragic one.
Yeah, the car accidents, when you die in one, like when a rapper dies in one, it always feels out of left field for me. I'm like, really? Like they didn't get shot,
Yeah,
or at least they
right. I
weren't
was just gonna
sick.
say usually it's it's violence that ends up taking a rap artist out.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. But yeah, he passed away July 10th, 2015. So it's been about 9 years now. Um, so we haven't got. Yeah, it blows my mind. Like, wow, I can't believe Fatal's been gone for like 9 years. You know, and it's crazy because
Yeah,
we'll like
man.
send each other texts, and I'm just like, oh, another rapper, man. Damn, it's nuts.
Yeah, and more than it should be.
Yeah.
It's wild.
So that is Fatal's life. I guess from a fan standpoint, I don't know much about his family and personal stuff, um, but I do know that he died pretty young. He had a short career, but to me, he was
Mm,
just one of these guys that always made these monster features. Like when you had
right.
him, it was like you're getting a 10 record. And you're right, man. He was on that "We Gon' Ride" track from Yuckmouth. So I had a few tracks here. Let me see if you recognize
All right.
any of them here. Somebody Gonna Die Tonight.
Yep.
That was on
That's Yuck
Godzilla.
Mouth, right?
Yeah.
Yep. Yep.
And then he was on "We Gon' Ride." You know,
Yep.
it was like that was the kind of guy that Fatal was.
Dude, yeah. I mean, he was just able to bring that big, like, mobster gangster persona and bring it to life on the track. You could feel it when he was
Hmm.
rapping.
And what's cool is that these guys like Yuck or Ja Rule were like, man, I got beef. You want to get on? And he's like, yeah,
Yeah.
fuck yeah, let's
Oh,
ride
yeah.
on these guys.
It was almost like a muscle man for you. Like, you need some muscle, you go get Fatal Hussein on the track.
It's like what got him famous or his first high of Hitem Up. Like
Right.
he ended there. Like he almost carried that tradition to other people's tapes. Because those songs that he was on for Jaw and Yuckmouth, they give me the same vibe when he's out there riding on them. Like, yeah, it's like hit 'em up stuff. You know,
Hmm.
so that's pretty cool.
Good with the battle raps,
Yeah, man.
if you want to call them that.
Yeah, the back and forth.
Right.
It's always been a part of hip hop. Fatal took it to another level or something. But yeah, he had another track on I think the album is called Born Legendary, something like that. But it's got
Yeah, that's
Cadillac.
one of his, right?
Yep. This one has Black Child, Cadillac Ta, and then somebody named Actual. But
Mm,
how crazy is it that we had another album with Cadillac Ta and Black Child and it wasn't on Murder Inc. They went
right.
to Fatal's studio to do that. I was like, man, I never see these guys out in
Yeah.
the wild.
And those two, Black Child and Cadillac Ta, were kind of like similar type of rapper that Fatal was. They could bring that gangster persona on. Like before Fatal linked up with Murder Inc., those were the roles that Cadillac Ta and Black Child were filling for Ja Rule,
Yeah,
you know?
doing some of Ja Rule's dirty work, you know?
Exactly.
Because Ja Rule, he's kind of like a clean rapper pop star almost, like he can't really get too dirty, you know?
Right, right. Yeah. He's got the mainstream
That's
appeal,
right. He's
can't
got to
get
keep that.
dirty, needs some people from the streets to do his dirty work.
That's right. Yeah, they played that role pretty good, man. I wish they would have done more, really.
Yeah, yeah. They were good together. It's Man, I know this is a little off topic, but Cadillac Ta has something new out there that I haven't really been able to give a
Seriously.
good listen to. But yeah, go check it out. It's on Spotify. Um, I got to give that a listen when I get a chance. But I noticed that a while back.
Damn. Yeah. Thanks for letting me know because I would never think to look for him on there.
Yeah, not him as a solo artist.
Yeah. He had a song, and I don't know how big it was, but "Rain on Me" remix, Ashanti.
Yeah.
I heard it and I
Um,
was like, this is actually pretty good.
hmm It
He
was
doesn't
kind of
sound
like
bad.
a remake, the same sample that Snoop had on the next episode on the Doggy Style album,
Yeah,
um, which ended up being the track that was cut from the original release. Um,
I remember that. Yep.
so yeah, pretty cool, man. I like the sample that they used. They did pretty good with it.
Yeah,
And
I
you had
like that one.
Cadillac Ta on there also, right? It was Jaw,
Oh, I don't
Cadillac,
know.
Ashanti, and
I
Fatal, I think.
I didn't see all the features. You're probably right. The Spotify has a playlist that it's just like "This Is Fatal" or something like that,
Mhm.
and it's got all kinds of random Fatal tracks. No rhyme or reason to it other than they're like
Yeah,
random pieces of that what they could find from a lot of records. I have not.
features and
Yeah,
whatnot.
yeah, features and all that. I haven't listened to the entire thing, but it's out there for anybody who cares to really
I
get the
saw
full
that. I don't know
experience of
if it's the
Fatal.
same playlist that you saw, but one of them had like an older Tupac album cover on it, and I was like, I don't remember him being on. Gosh,
Well,
which is that one? It's like the sepia filter picture with Tupac. I don't remember the name of that album.
there's a
Drawing a
playlist
blank.
there's a playlist called Fatal Radio, and that'll
Mm.
play you a bunch of tracks
Oh,
that
I
don't have
gotcha.
Fatal in it. But the one that says "This Is Fatal" will give you
Yeah,
songs that he's featured on. Because I listened to
nice.
that.
I'll check that
I
out.
listened to the Fatal Radio and got just some Ja Rule and different things. I was like, "There's no Fatal on here," so I had
Right.
to
They just
go to the "This Is Fatal" playlist that they made.
okay. I'll check that out too.
I'll put in the show notes for our viewers. It's worth the peep. And there's a track that I found, "Fuck with Ya," with Sibo. That was pretty dope. I like
Nice.
how Fatal he could get his paychecks from like these big guys, but he would still be like grimy enough to go with these other guys that, you know, like our underground. I don't know if you call Sibo underground, but he's a little grimier than Ja Rule.
Yeah, a
So,
little more grimy, you know, definitely not mainstream rap.
right. Right.
Underground.
He's like I think he might be maybe he's a level under Yuck Mouth at that time. I don't know. Maybe they're
Right.
equally underground or whatever. But
Yuck got a little mainstream appeal, so I could see where you'd put him just slightly above him.
yeah, yeah, he's got a little bit of that. But Fatal, I think at the end, how he started off, I would say on All Eyes on Me, and but specifically Hit 'Em Up is a lot of how he ended his career. And I just put that together, just thinking about it right here with you. That man, he started off Hit 'Em Up, and then all these rappers like got him for these Hit 'Em Up type of Let's Ride, and
Yeah,
that's how his career went.
and I think that's probably where he was best too, is when he had somebody else on the track with him
Yeah,
that was going just as hard. He would be able to match that same intensity. And
yeah.
maybe that
So
was a part of the motivation. He'd hear someone's verse and be like, "Oh, I'm gonna outdo that one." Or, but yeah, he always came and he brought it just as hard as anybody on the track.
for sure, man, for sure. So that's fatal. That's fatal, man. He's gonna be missed, but it's pretty dope to chop it up about him. Check out some of these missing tracks, whatever, and I'm gonna have to look up some of that stuff that you were talking about, man, for real. That first of all, that Thug Life that I haven't heard, and then keep an eye out on like these missing Novocaine tracks, and you just never know
Yeah,
what's
dude.
out
Let
there.
me let me go through my computer, man. It's been a while since I've been able to dig through the files and whatnot. But I got some good shit that we'll have to go over sometime. I know this is not necessarily related to the podcast, but got some unreleased like No Limit shit from Snoop that's pretty dope, and
Wow.
a Novocaine would be awesome if I could find that. But maybe next podcast or one of these days we get together and go over some of that unreleased shit.
Hell yeah, just plug in the computer and let's get all these lost tracks from back in the day, man.
Exactly, man. Like I'll get my hands on that Two Gangsta for Radio 2. There was like a second soundtrack to that was unreleased. It was pretty good. There's a lot of unreleased death row stuff out there that's pretty good.
Man, you got Chronic 2000?
I do. I still have that on CD.
I need that, man. I need that.
Yeah, man, you got it.
I don't know why
I'll hook it up.
It's not you can't stream it or nothing still.
Dude, yeah, and it's all over Dr. Dre. He sued him over the name, so they can't put it on Spotify or any streaming services.
They're not going to fight that anymore. I mean, Snoop Dogg owns everything, so he's like, whatever.
No, and it's kind of funny. They ended up fucking themselves trying to screw over Dr. Dre, which is a bummer. I mean, at the time, it was like, oh, that's a dick move. They took the Chronic 2000 name,
Yep.
But yeah, now we can't even hear that shit on the internet.
I know, it's too bad. All right,
Speaking of death row,
what?
I'm gonna say, when's Snoop gonna release all that unreleased shit? All he's dropping is R&B shit.
Which ones?
Death Row. Snoop has Death Row now. All the shit coming out of Death Row is R&B right now.
Yeah. I mean, all the unreleased stuff is like what the all the disses on him, isn't it?
Oh well, you've got the Above the Law album.
That's right.
Crooked Eyes album. You've got you've got the Outlaws. Who else was there? Like Sam Snead
Swoop
from back.
G?
Swoop G. You probably got a lot of disses on that one, so I could see where maybe Snoop's like, nah.
Yeah.
But even the stuff from his era, they had some artists that crossed over and went over there.
Mm-hmm.
Trey D had an album over there. When are we going to hear that? The whole Dog Pound, I'm sure, has unreleased shit over there. Yeah, Dr. Dre has unreleased shit over there. But
open the vaults, Snoop. Open the vaults.
I know I'm getting off topic, but we're gonna get us a new Snoop Dogg, Dr. Dre, DOC album this year. You heard about that, right?
I didn't know that DOC was involved.
He's involved with the writing.
I want to hear that.
So
I hope Snoop lets him write like a lot of it. Like,
dude,
I want to hear Snoop rap like that again. You know what I mean?
With exactly. Yeah, I hope they just let DOC do all the writing.
Yeah, we've got plenty of Snoop out there.
Like, possibly doing that. Yeah.
I want. Yeah,
let
they could
DOC
treat it like
get
it's
some
DOC.
shine.
It's like I'll be your voice, DOC. Like that.
There you go.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah. Hell yeah.
I'm down to listen to that. That'd be nice.
Something good to look forward to.
Well, the next episode, I want to go to Detroit, do Mastermind.
Sweet.
You know what I mean?
All right.
You got some familiarity. Yeah. You know him.
Dude, I will be much more knowledgeable with that one. The Fatal one caught me a little off guard. I'm a Fatal fan, but I just never really looked into his life too much, just what I hear on the records, So
yeah, it's pretty interesting, eye-opening stuff. If you ever, I don't know, just look online and see, his life and how it kind of just went, his rap career. And things surprised me, It's like, wow, it's crazy. But yeah, next episode we'll do some Mastermind, and then we'll just keep checking out some of these rappers that have this story, this untold story, man. Untold stories.
Yeah, man.
It's cool.
Try to dig up some shit that people might not know.
That's right.
Good shit.
Dre, thanks for being on the show, man.
For sure.
You be safe driving out there.
Thanks for having me, man, and looking forward to doing more of these. It's like the perfect, time frame and whatnot. So I think we could definitely do more of these going forward.
Yes, sir. We'll hold you to that.
All right, man.
All right.
You take it easy, Diz. Catch you later.
Late.